And welcome back to Survivor 42 and 42. Just finished season 39, Island of the Idols, and there are thoughts. We are joined once again by Tiki, who we haven't had in a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe longer. What was the last episode you were on?
South Pacific.
So, yeah, about 2 weeks.
Yep.
We're going to get right into it. I don't expect this one to be very long, although I will say there are positives to this season. So, Tiki, what were some of the things that you really enjoyed about this season?
Sure. I mean, obviously, this season is a black sheep of a season for good reason. That being said, I genuinely think a good chunk of the cast is pretty damn standout. I have four names in particular, Jamal, Elaine, Janet, and Lauren. All four of these people, I think, are straight up like, I would love to see them play again. I thought they were like really, really killer TV personalities. They both played in different ways. And then on top of that, you have train wrecky people like the DK Chillins and the Noras of the world who, I mean, they are just like horrible players, but at the same time, I think Nora, unacquired taste. I'm actually curious to see where you lie on the Nora train. I will say on rewatch, it's a little much. I still like her. First watch, she was like my favorite. I was totally team Nora the first watch. I think binging it, you kind of get a little, that's why I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on her. But overall, just in general, I knew that this was going to be a season where people were going to be hesitant to come on. And honestly, I find going on and on about, how good a season like Caramoan or Heroes versus Villains is to be kind of boring. I mean, it's, they're top tier seasons, but so much has already been said about them.
Caramoan?
Oh, I'm sorry. What am I talking? Caramoan. Kai Gaon.
It's like, what are we doing this?
No, Kai Gaon. I'm sorry. It's late. It's late. My bad. You know what I mean? It's like we see, like I've seen a lot of like 3-hour deep dive podcasts, like why Kai Gaon is the best season ever. Yes. And I am honestly more interested in dissecting these kind of like fringe seasons, like just kind of even from a pop culture point of view. I find that like the Thailands and the Gabones of the world, I find them very interesting.
And I'll tell you this, I the running gag on this for the last 39 days is Thailand's the worst because of this, that, and the other. I'll get to my rating at the end of this, but Island of the Idols, I will say it starts off very hot. I really, every pre-merge episode during this rewatch, I really enjoyed from beginning to end, except for, that one moment at episode 1 where we kind of lay the groundwork about what happened with the merge. But I really enjoyed the cast. I thought it was silly the reasons they were voting out certain folks, mainly Molly and Chelsea. But I understood, I guess I understood the pre-merge. Even this time I tried to watch it through Rob and Sandra's eyes. Just because that is another thing that the season kind of gets shit on for is the unnecessary having Rob and Sandra back. But I actually, once you get past the corniness of them reading what happens on Island of the Idols and them saying, "Oh, we built the shelter," and their banter, which is very corny. Once you get past that, I do enjoy watching the Survivor players interact with them, whether the lessons that they're learning are, really relevant or not. I think after a while you start to run out of ideas of what lessons are going to teach people. And I was so thankful that Janet, was the first person to be like, I'm good. I'm not going to do this.
Isn't it fitting that Janet was like the one person to be, I'm good.
But the pre-merge, it just, I loved Jamal. I loved his interaction with Jack. I loved their duo, but I also loved their interaction. And Jack didn't try to stray away from it and just kind of sat there and talked about it. Jack, who is like super invisible in my head, the first time I watched the season, Jack exists. And this time around, I'm like, wait, isn't there supposed to be someone here that Jamal is supposed to talk to? And I'm fairly certain it's supposed to be Jack. And he's just not around at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Less confessionals by a large amount than, you know, the person that's removed at 6. But I really enjoyed their dynamic. I really enjoyed Elaine, you know, fighting. She had to fight from the very beginning. People like Vince, who, you know, second or third boot, but Vince was a fun character while he lasted. And then we get one of I don't really do the whole winner's edit thing, but Tommy in the first episode is like, oh, well, he's winning because we get his first and last name. We get, I'm a 4th grade teacher. We get everything about him as compared to like the basics about everyone else. And like the entire season, it's like, yeah, Tommy's going to win. Yep, Tommy's going to win. So what are your thoughts on Tommy as Tommy the player, Tommy the winner?
Yeah, sure. I have always kind of honestly held Tommy in a pretty high regard. He's very much a boring winner. I think he's kind of like a textbook definition of someone who is just, he does not have a TV personality. And you and I have both joked before we even came on air about the whole like, hey, let me tell you for the 20th time why me being a 4th grade teacher relates to Survivor. That being said, I do want to talk about some of the BS regarding the twist this season, because I honestly think that this season might actually be kind of like underrepresented as far as like the fan perception of BS twists. I think there's a couple moments here that I'm really not a fan of. But Tommy just bypasses
that, right?
Yeah. Sorry. But Tommy just bypasses all of that. Like, I don't know. To me, there's just something to be said for a player who doesn't actively look for idols at all, like probably avoids going to Island of the Idols whenever the chance for like, hey, who wants to go comes up. You know, I imagine he's not raising his hand. He's very much just relying on his social skills and his ability to get information and control information. And I am a fan of old school players like that, at least in terms of play style. Now, as far as character goes, which Casey and I actually just started a new podcast on the storytelling and editing side of Survivor, like Tommy would definitely be like a lower rung character without a doubt. But just as far as like my personal preferences for play style and strategy and whatnot, I would probably rank Tommy like middle of the pack as far as winners go, but I still think that's a pretty respectable placement.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching Tommy. This is not as far as an entertaining character, but I enjoyed his interactions with folks. And, you know, it's very similar to Cochran and Caramon as far as whenever bad things start to happen, guess who's all of a sudden kind of invisible while these things are happening? That was another telltale.
Yep, definitely.
I mean, it's like all this stuff's going down. It's like Tommy's still being shown and he seemed to be strategizing, but like, we don't get any opinions on what's going on there, which I feel like was a telltale sign. But I really enjoyed Tommy's interaction. I really enjoyed his relationship with Lauren, with Janet, basically with the entire final 6.
His dynamic with Elaine actually really stood out to me on this rewatch.
How so?
Oh, I don't know. I just the fact that Elaine was like so willing to be like a close ally to him at certain points in the game, and yet the two of them both knew that they couldn't take each other to the end. I always find those kind of dynamics really interesting. Like people who genuinely want to work together, but also can openly acknowledge that they can't take each other to the end.
Yeah, and that is one thing that I have really enjoyed in these late 30 seasons. I think I mentioned it on Ghost Island, as far as a lot of these folks, as they're being voted out, do it with grace. And not to say there's a correct way to be voted out, because everyone reacts differently. But
the way I was voted out on Prometheus, not the correct way, for the record.
Everyone go watch Prometheus.
It wasn't
currently
pretty.
Doing the Kelly Jeff interview at the reunion. But I did appreciate the fact that people were being more open about who they were working with, who were working against, and still be blindsided at in a lot of these situations, especially Karishma. Basically, she idols twice. She idols
Mhm.
correctly twice. And watching their faces both times, it's just like, she got you again. What do you think everyone's problem was with Karishma?
Yeah, Karishma's an interesting character for sure. You know what? You know what's interesting is I remember in the first couple episodes, I actually kind of like vaguely had her in winner territory just because they got super personal into her character.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that her arc of her arc of like the arranged marriage and then kind of like, sort of realizing how much love she does have for her husband in contrast to how shitty people treated her on the island. I genuinely think that's a fascinating character arc, and I forgot how meaningful that character arc was.
Absolutely, I really enjoyed Krishna this season.
Uh-huh.
I felt for her this entire, especially with how, and we'll get to Missy and Elizabeth in a little bit,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
the way that they're treating her, and like even when Missy gets voted out, she's saying, "Oh yeah, Krishna, you know I was going to take you to the end because basically I could beat you," and that rubbed me the wrong way because you're on your way out the door, which means I did something to outplay you in this situation. I
Right.
feel like Krishna is a meme because of the whole Applebee's thing, which in my head,
It is a glorious quote, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, in my head, it wasn't as funny as it happened. And watching it again, it's like, no, this is, and
Yeah, that is pretty damn
also
funny.
freaking out about it. Like it was amazing.
But I will
Um,
give credit where credit's due, though. Tommy's whole, the whole like the Shark Bowl is the island drink. Like that, I think is equally funny. Every
but
season's got to have one ridiculous reward, right?
yeah, well, there was a couple seasons ago where they did Applebee's. Like, I think it might have been Ghost Island, but you asked me about my opinion on Nora.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Characters throughout especially on this watch. Not a fan of Coach. My favorite version of Coach is Heroes versus Villains because he doesn't outstay his welcome. We get enough Coachisms that we can have fun with it. My favorite version of Debbie is in Co-Wrong because she isn't Debbie playing the role of Debbie like she did in Game Changer.
Mhm.
My favorite Philip is Caramoan because he turned down the crazier Philip and turned up the delusions of grandeur Philip, which I
There was
enjoyed.
actually a method to that madness.
Yes, this with Nora, I would love to see Nora play again, just to see if we get the same Nora, because Nora and the Island of the Idols bubble, yes, kind of annoying, a very strong personality, but I did enjoy her interactions with folks.
Uh-huh.
I did enjoy her at tribals. I did enjoy her. What I don't remember what I think it was Final 7 tribal where she blows up Elaine having an idol, or maybe it might have been Final 8. And she's just blowing everything up. And it's like, yes, everyone keeps calling you unpredictable because you're unpredictable. Like, no one knows what you're going to do. A lot of times when we watch these shows, people, this person's unpredictable because of this one thing. Nora is just unpredictable
Just
because
genuinely, like,
she
yeah.
just does it all. And somehow that gets her to the end. I don't believe that she was dragged through the game. I feel like there have been multiple times throughout the season where people want to get rid of her, and her name comes up quite a few times,
Uh-huh.
and she just doesn't
Not
go.
to mention 3 individual immunity wins.
Yes. So I would enjoy to see Nora. I would enjoy seeing Nora play again, and just hope that she doesn't outstay her welcome the next time.
I definitely think if Nora was better at public speaking, let's just say that, I think she would have had a chance to beat Tommy and Dean. I really do. Because I agree with you that on paper, I do think she had some agency within the game. It's the problem really is, I think, a combination of obviously her final tribal council was not the best.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's a big factor of like, when you consider like how annoying she was on TV, it's probably a million times worse to actually physically be living with her out there in the conditions 24/7. So yeah.
So as we start to wrap up the pre-merge, we're losing these characters, but everything is coming to a head. It looks like it's just going to be all out chaos at the merge, and you're looking forward to it. And today, I was at my most aware as the pre-merge start to wrap up, because it's like, wow, this is going to get good. I know that this one thing is going to happen, but maybe this time I can like look past it. And then what happens is the episode right before we get to the merge, there is a Me Too discussion at Tribal Council featuring Kelly, Jamal, and a few others, and it is nothing against any of them, but they're just having that conversation. And I tweeted out, "This is the worst form of foreshadowing in the history of history."
Oh God!
Because all of a sudden we hit the merge, and immediately, and it's so weird the way that it's edited, because they're showing everyone interact, and it's fun. Every now and then they'll cut to Dan touching someone or whatever, but they don't acknowledge it. It's not in the center. And then they like replay it over again when they're doing that interview with Kelly, and she's sitting there saying, "Oh yes, uncomfortable, blah blah." And the producers go, "Well, if someone makes you feel uncomfortable, please reach out to us, because that's not acceptable." And in that moment, I actually screamed at my TV, like, I feel like that's what she's doing right now.
No, I think that moment has always been a sticking point with people. Yeah. Like the producers, like it feels like the producers put that in there to save their own ass, as far as like, see, we have people looking out for her, but in the end, it kind of backfired because you kept the fucker in the game.
Yeah, well, and they show these moments that she's talking about, so they have the footage, and as the first time I watched this, I had heard rumors that someone was going to be removed from the game, and so I assumed it was going to be him, and I assumed it was going to be here. And then all of a sudden, it gets somehow Dan isn't even the worst person in this episode. Somehow,
Yeah.
Elizabeth and Missy basically lying and like hamming it up to Janet, who everyone has deemed like the mom of everything of everything, and they're saying, "Oh no, this is what happened." Blah blah blah. Meanwhile, they're sitting and giggling, saying, "Oh yeah, we're lying to Janet because she's trying to come after us," and Janet's trying to go after. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to take note. Hi from season 42. Hi.
Yeah.
This is what gaslighting looks like. Hi. Yeah. This is what gaslighting looks like.
This is what actually and it's messed up because one, and I'm not shitting on Kelly the player, because I think Kelly the player was great this season. She gets sent home with 2 idols.
I totally forgot that she had 2 idols, dude. No one ever talked about that because of all the other bullshit. Yeah.
Semi-successfully playing one, kind of before. And she sits there at camp and says, "I feel like something's off. Like the right people are not acting scared right now. I feel like something's off." She whispers to Lauren at the tribal, like, "Hey, are we, Laura, are we good?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're good." And I felt horrible for Kelly in that situation, and I felt really bad for Janet in that situation, because these people used her, and because they knew that she was going to be nice about it, and then tried to lie to Dan. They tried to lie to Dan when they got back to camp, and once again, Dan comes off as, at worst, a horrible person, but at best, like, "Oh man, these two lied about me," which they did. And so I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh yeah, this cast is great with the exception of one." For me, it's the exception of 3. Mm-hmm. And
I totally agree. I'm totally with you.
And it gets worse because as a person of color, I wanted to celebrate her, Missy and Aaron winning the 2 immunities. And
it sucks, dude. It sucks because I actually really liked both of them before the gaslighting shit went down. Yes. I think both of them were genuinely compelling characters and hard gamers. So I feel you, man. It really sucks,
And everything that Missy did from that moment on, I just rolled my eyes at. One, when she brought up the race thing, two black people, one immunity, and you
Yeah,
didn't
that was
our props. And I'm like, dude, fuck you. And then when she gets blindsided and she's hugging Karishma and saying, "Oh yeah, I was going to take you to the end," and then like, "Oh no, Jeff, no," like, it just came. It was over exaggerated, and I don't think that I would have been as annoyed if that stuff hadn't happened. And then her jury reactions were just over the top, and I couldn't bring myself to support her anymore. And
I feel you.
And it sucked. Same thing with Elizabeth. Elizabeth I thought she was fine for the bulk of the pre-merge. She was one of my favorite characters in the pre-merge. When Elaine is telling Krishna about her advantage that she got during the challenge, and their little reaction where she's like, "Shut the fuck up," and she's like, "Shut up," but yeah, I got it. Like, we're good. Blah blah blah. I really enjoyed that interaction, and it just all of the wind and all of the momentum is sucked out in that one episode, that 2-part episode.
I feel like it's very, very similar to the double quit in Nicaragua.
Yes, I agree. It's not to say that, because I would say that Island of the Idols had a better pre-merge and up to the moment than Nicaragua did, because Nicaragua was just still kind of just dragging.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it was like
I think Marty Piombo was like the one person saving Nicaragua, honestly.
Yes. But this season was picking up steam, and then I checked out. I could sit here and tell you everything about the pre-merge, and I could tell you a little bit about the merge, mainly all the advantages and idols get played, the Karishma fights, that Elaine becomes the target again once all of the other social threats, the way that Tommy deems them, are gone, with the exception of Janet. I know that Janet plays an idol. It gets nullified. I know that Dan's removed. Fire making, final tribal. I know all these things. I know that Dan somehow gets picked in the family visit, which is
what's even more fucked about that is that he's got his 13-year-old kid with him, and that kid is the youngest person to ever go on a family visit, and that's like I feel so bad for that kid because he's
Shane's son.
What?
How old was Shane's son on Panama?
Shane was like 14, and Boston was 14.
Okay.
And then this kid is 13. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's.
I'm happy that the kid got to have the experience, but at the same time, it's like that's got to lead to some fucking therapy, man. When you're rewatching the show, it's horrible.
It's when I watched Thailand this time around. I tried to do the Ted Gandia thing in a bubble and just kind of watch the rest of the season, and the season's just sucked on its own. Even if you remove that, I feel like if anything,
for sure,
worse down. With this season, it's almost, I won't say it's the opposite, but you can put the Dan Kelly thing in a bubble. The only issue is that person. The only difference is that it's so clouds everything. Gandhi didn't make the jury, so we don't have to.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
We see Kelly's face every week, and it's like, man, you remember that time they screwed that girl over because half the tribe wanted to get her out because she was a strategic threat, half the tribe wanted to save her because of this, and 2 people tried to do this, and Dan was doing his own thing. Because Dan didn't even want her gone at first.
What's even more fucked is that I genuinely think Dan was probably a lock for Final 3 if he didn't get pulled.
Yes, he was the perfect person to bring to the Final 3, because he, even besides that, it seemed like he was second or third in command of that alliance to begin with.
Yeah, he actually was in a pretty decent position, as much as I hate to admit.
Yeah, he was. And Tommy even named him, Lauren, and either Dean or Dean not Dean, Janet as his people that he trusted, but he knew he had to get rid of Janet. So he absolutely taking Dan to the end. But we'll never hear him say that because you can't show the winner saying these things. But that's the problem with the season is there are so many things, including the cast. a very diverse cast, by the way.
Oh
Which
yeah, for sure.
before the Survivor Diversity Initiative, that's very diverse, fun gameplay, very chaotic, great characters. The advantages, I didn't mind them this season. The Island of the Idols is not as bad as people make it out to be.
I do want to double back around to the advantages and the Island of
ahead.
the Idols when we get a chance, because I do have things to say about that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna leave that situation alone after this. Optics wise, it's an understatement to say wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Optics wise, the fact that production knew what they were doing when they were making the season and still decided to give him enough screen time where we're seeing a lot of them. And to show all these moments where, yeah, we saw him doing this and we didn't really do anything about it. So the whole I'm so glad this is one of the reunions I'm glad I didn't have to actually sit and watch, because that interview with Kelly is just so super uncomfortable. It's just like Jeff's basically saying, "Hey, don't sue us."
I mean, I think it's ridiculous that they didn't at least purple him to a certain extent.
They purple Jack. You can.
I know, right, yeah.
So, please continue. We're gonna go all the way back and just talk about the advantages of the actual Island of the Idols.
So yes, okay. So I have a few notes. So bear with me.
Okay.
Number one, the big giant heads of Rob and Sandra is like that is like Survivor so bad it's good quiche, and it's absolute like god tier. Like I love it. It's awful, but it's like my awful. You know what I mean? As a longtime Survivor fan. I actually genuinely like a lot of the interactions that Rob and Sandra have with the people. I think some of the challenges are really good. A couple of my personal favorites happen pretty quickly. I love the whole thing with Beazle, challenging Rob and just like, hey, what were you thinking? You couldn't make fire against me. That was stupid. And then I really, I think my favorite interaction of the whole thing, I forget who it's even with, but the whole thing where they just start having a conversation and telling personal...
Kelly. It was
Kelly.
Kelly.
That was fantastic. I loved that.
Because you as an audience, you know what's going on. You know,
right.
You know that this is what they're doing.
I also just love the little like sitcom like antics of them building the shelter and bickering. Most of that stuff is scripted, but I love it anyways.
Yeah.
I love the little the little like fucking treehouse bunker at Tribal. I love a lot of that stuff. It's
I want the Rob Sandra edit of this season. Watch everything from their perspective.
There are two moments in particular that I think are bullshit when it comes to the twists. Number one, I want to talk about this guy in particular because I think this guy was the most fucked over person in the entire cast. Jason.
Okay.
I really hated seeing what happened to him. Because basically the whole situation was it was the 4-4 split, and then production was randomly like, okay, we're gonna give the fan favorite a lane. Like, I want to make it clear, I'm not even like really trying to be all conspiracy theory. I'm just saying it's bullshit that at a 4-4 vote, like it wasn't even an idol. That's what pissed me off. It was just, hey, you can't vote, therefore it's, it's like if it was just an idol, I think then it would have at least required them to choose the person to block the votes. But it was literally just like, fuck you, Jason, you can't vote. And the moment that was absolutely heartbreaking for me on Jason's part, I don't know, I hope you remember this. It's a moment that's really always stuck with me. When they're going to vote, I'm pretty sure it's Aaron that he does it with. He's like trying to get the fist bump with Aaron, but Aaron's just not having it. And then Jason just sits there like, yeah, shit, I'm going. It's me. That hurts. I really like Jason a lot. In the little time we did get with him, he very much reminded me of like a young Rob Sesternino type. And then, of course, Andrew, we got to talk about the Janet thing, my friend. Like, here's the thing. I actually did really think that it worked out pretty well in David versus Goliath with the nullifier. That being said, I 1000% agree with her that Final Five is way too late to have an idol nullifier.
Yes.
Not to mention the bullshit of literally like flip a coin, it's a coin. It's like the producers literally just ran out of. They just gave up at that point.
Yeah. Well, they gave up until 41, where now we have even more new advantages that you thought we were done. But now,
and if that shit doesn't happen, then I guarantee you that Janet wins, and she probably becomes one of the best female winners in the show's history. If Janet wins
this season, I feel like this season might actually be looked at a little higher than it is. Because Janet is the hero of the whole thing, or the hero that stays of the whole thing. I think that if Janet wins this, we're talking about not Island of Idols being like a great season or anything, but we're talking about it how we talk about maybe like Gabon or
like maybe like a Vanuatu or something like that.
I love Vanuatu. Like with this, I love Vanuatu. Vanuatu's up there with me now.
No, I love Vanuatu as well. I'm just saying like general fan perception.
The casuals. No.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but it's not the way we go. We end up with the final three of Tommy, Dean, and Nora, and
not a good final three, honestly. Just all around across the board.
Yeah, I thought they were on a cast of very interesting characters and storylines. I do feel like of the three, Dean did bring this up. He got swapped in the minority. He started off the merge on the bottom after almost getting voted out of both his OG tribe and his swap tribe. I think that his storyline was the most compelling of the three. I do feel like he went in there and fought very hard at Final Tribal. I did enjoy, and we talked about this off camera, I enjoyed the banter that Tommy and Dean were having. He got caught with his pants down. You want to talk about what happened there?
Yeah, that is genuinely to me like one of the more underrated, like super dramatic Final Tribal Council moments. Just because of the way it's edited with the rain and everything. Because it's basically just like a slip of the tongue. He's like, yeah, I told this person that I was their final two because that was part of my social game. And then literally the entire jury is just like down his throat. Like, wait, you said that you didn't have final twos. And you said that was a big part of a game, and a line you wouldn't cross.
You wouldn't make any final deals, so you didn't believe it.
And it's so great where Dean is he is just so like, whoa, like, okay, where did this come from?
He really gets caught with his pants down. And I don't think it swayed that many people. I do feel like people probably were going to vote for Tommy anyway, but I
honestly think Dean's biggest problem in the Final Tribal Council, I genuinely think that if he would have played up the actual story more and less the whole look at my toys, guys, look at my fancy toys that I didn't actually use.
Bob and Sandra signed it. So
like that is just like it's one thing to consistently use idols, even if you're Ben and it's questionable that those idols are even fairly being found by you. It's another thing to just be like, hey guys, imagine if oh shoot, I'm blanking on the Drea. Imagine if Drea from last season got to the final three, held on to all her advantages, didn't play any of them, and just her literal game was just like, I got this advantage, and I got this advantage, and I have this advantage.
And that is what Natalie Anderson does in 40 when they're like, name everything that you got during.
Okay, to be fair, that was literally her only move. Is the first boot of the season,
and she.
I love that, and she played that season for everything she could,
and she got 4 votes. So,
she still got second place.
But so we have Tommy on the other end. Owning up to he owns up to a lot of his shit. He doesn't own up to all of his shit. Because he's definitely going to own up to the fact that he screwed over Lauren the night before, and more than just the way that she thought.
Sure.
And I did appreciate Dean and Nora, but definitely Dean saying, Yeah, like you definitely like you made sure that Lauren wasn't going to win this because you knew that Lauren would beat all of us at the end. And we talked about this before. Lauren, Elaine, and Janet basically sweep if they're sitting at the end against any of
all
these.
three of them, yeah.
Period. And I think it would have been warranted. I feel like the three of them
Because frankly, Lauren, like her and Tommy had very similar strategic games, but she is just a lot more socially likable than he is.
Yes. Yes. And Janet had the mom thing going. I think that Janet had the fact that she found these advantages. She she went through a lot.
Like I said, I genuinely think if Janet won, she would have been regarded as one of the great female winners of all time, I think.
They would have found a way to like push back Winners of War, even though they wouldn't have been able to. Overall, Island of the Idols, Tiki, thoughts, just overall, how was this time watching for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you are cursed, my friend. You have given yourself this narcissistic challenge of watching them all in the day. Like, I watched it in chunks. I watched it, like, about 4 episodes at a time. Even then, it kind of dragged. The point that you made about, like, the pre-merge being pretty solid, and then once it gets to the situation, everything just becomes blurry. I absolutely agree with you. I think it's very much like a Nicaragua type season where there are good characters, there are fun moments, but there is also a haze of negativity and definitely some bullshit. Frankly, an underrated amount of bullshit in my opinion when it comes to production stuff. But like I said, I do really genuinely like all the dumb Sandra and Rob stuff, and
yes,
I honestly wouldn't mind if they brought back the concept of having the coaches living on a different island, because I like don't make it so focused as far as like giving the advantages, but just I don't know. I do like that side of the season for the most part. I do think it's silly and it's fun and it adds a new layer, and
it's shit. It becomes a solace for me after the merge.
Oh, like, totally.
Go visit Rob and Sandra. Can we please just see?
Absolutely.
What ideas are they getting into? That's why we need the Rob Sandra edit, because we don't have to get into this stuff on there. But
oh my god, would the Rob Sandra edit entail like their reactions to finding out about Dan being pulled?
Honestly, when I watched Ponderosa's for this, it's I was like expecting that to happen at some point, and the fact that it didn't actually made me feel happier, because it's like, all right, cool. We're just not going to acknowledge it here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so this is day 39. This is season 39. I've got 3 days left. Up to this point, my lowest rated season was Thailand, which I gave a 1.5 out of 5 because I enjoyed Clay's confessionals. No matter how problematic they were, they made me laugh, and I enjoyed Jan and her dead animal graveyard, and Helen was cool. Besides that, I have Redemption Island at 1.75, and that is it. And honestly, this time around watching Island of the Idols, I think because the cast is better than Thailand, because the gameplay is better than Thailand, and yes, even though both seasons have this big issue, amazingly, I think I might prefer this season over Thailand. So I'm going to give it a 1.75 as well. It'll tie with Redemption Island. So it's not like it's, something amazing. But going into this, I thought the Island of the Idols was going to remain my lowest ranked season of all time. And this time around, that pre-merge really saved it. And that final tribal really saved it for me.
And again, I want to emphasize so much, like, it's such a shame that we lost Jamal so early into the merge, because that dude, like, if that dude would have even lasted until, like, the final 8, final 7, I feel like it would have been such a breath of fresh air to just have him in the mix.
Yes.
I don't know. And again, can we just talk about really quick? I know I've already gone off about the BS, but just really quick, the whole like, oh, look, there's a note in the tree. Sorry, you lose your vote because you went for the thing in the tree.
Well, and it's funny because they're like, you should know in Survivor, there's no such thing as handouts. It's like, no, that's not true.
Literally in
That's not
Survivor,
true.
there's shit hanging around the jungle all the time for you to
Jeremy
find.
found an idol hanging in a tree. Bodie, that's how it happened.
That being said, I was thoroughly entertained by all the legacy advantage shenanigans that Dean got into as a result of that.
Yes, I did too.
He thought he was such a genius with the fake legacy advantage.
Everyone pre-merge, one of the sad storylines that didn't continue is the fact that everyone keeps saying a woman's going to win this season. A woman's going to win. Sandra's sitting on Island of the Idols saying a woman's going to definitely win this season, and nah. And we don't even the woman that is least likely at merge to win the game is the one that ends up at the end of the game, because I do feel like Karishma had a better chance than Nora did at the end of the game.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Especially with how she was fighting, right before they finally got her out. But Tiki, thank you so much for having the testicular fortitude to come on the Island of the Idols recap. Everyone, I made it through. Island of the Idols, and now I've got 3 pretty good to great seasons over the last 3 days of this. Once again, Sunday, I am live streaming all day from beginning to end. I'm going to have everyone, or hopefully almost everyone that has come on throughout these last 40-ish days, just popping in to say, hey, hopefully I can have Tiki with the
absolutely
Sunday to say hey. And
if you could have me on, are you live streaming like
all day?
So like all the episodes, or
I'm not going to be showing them because
I know, but you're going to be like talking over them, right?
Yes.
Okay, if you could have me on specifically, there's an episode in 42 that I like raved about on the podcast with Casey. It's the one. It's one with. Okay, for sure. I'm sorry. I don't need to.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you after Survivor Winners at